I was sent this classic 24 set a few years ago by A.Gallo. And after swatching out the entire set, I was so bowled away with how beautiful all of the colors looked together and mixed together. And so I narrowed it down to the single pigment ones that were my favorites. And I added them to this little wooden Pochade box. And all but 3 of these, or I think 4 of these, have just single pigments, and they all have excellent light fastness. And so I've loved using this, but if you've seen any of my videos before, you may know that I really have been focusing on tiny painting over the past few years. So I haven't been able to get as much mileage out of this as I've wanted to. And because these were only available as hand-poured pans, I wasn't able to use these colors in any of my tiny palettes. However, A.Gallo is now selling their paints in tubes as well as the pans. And I've been waiting for this for a few years, so I've saved up and I splurged on the colors that I really, really want to explore over the next year. So that's my disclaimer for this massively huge and expensive haul. And with that said, we're going to get into that. I love the A.Gallo paints so much. They're handmade in Italy by an artist named A.Gallo, and she has a background in Italian and Persian paint making techniques. And all of her paints are made using a traditional recipe of raw pigments, gum arabic from the acacia tree, local honey from Umbria, and rosemary essential oil. They're all hand poured and have excellent light fastness. And what I really love about them is that all of these colors are cadmium, cobalt, lead, and mercury free. The attention to detail is pretty exquisite. So each one of these pans is individually wrapped with hand-painted labels. So you really know just by looking at the swatch here exactly what that color is going to look like. Unlike most manufacturers, which just give you a facsimile of the color that's been replicated with dyes and not the actual pigment in the paint. I really wanted to get this Naturale range because it's a collection of earth and mineral colors. Every single one of these has excellent light fastness, and most of these are single pigment paints. I purchased this little color mixing set that they released. It has all of these different templates on Arches watercolor paper. And normally I do my own swatching, but I thought these might be fun to explore. And this was an additional splurge. This is a set of the Naturale hand-poured pans. They always give you this nice little card that explains the paints. They come with these really nice paper coverings for their metal palettes. And the nice thing about these is you can easily slip them back on. And when you're storing the palette, it protects it from getting scuffed. Plus, it's really pretty. And I'm going to know now that this green one is the Naturale and that my blue one is the Classic 2. They always include these wonderful 100% cotton swatch cards so that you can swatch the colors directly onto quality paper and see how they're going to behave. But in addition to that, each one of these pans is hand wrapped and hand painted with the exact color that's in each little pan. So in a sense, you don't even need to swatch them because you have the colors exactly as they're going to look when they're painted already here, as opposed to being printed with a die. With my classic set, I saved all of these because they're essentially just a swatch of the color. So I don't necessarily need my color chart to know exactly what each of these colors looks like when I'm making different palettes or when I'm painting. And then they've included this little Zero Tintoretto watercolor brush, which is a pointed round and looks to be a really nice quality. I know that I'm going to love these, so I actually invested in the Naturale Tube Set, and that one also comes in a beautiful box, also with a swatch card printed on 100% cotton paper. I'm so excited to try these, and one feature that I'm noticing right off the bat is that, similar to their pans, they've wrapped these tubes in watercolor paper with a hand-painted swatch of the color that's inside, which I think is just such a wonderful detail and so helpful to the artist too, because if you're searching for colors again, you can just look at the tubes and you know exactly what that color is going to look like. You may have noticed that there are 24 colors in the Naturale palette, and the tubes include only 10. And if there are any colors in here that I decide I really love, and they are also available in the tubes, I can invest in those at a later date. Look at how pretty they all look with the little window here in the box. This is going to be perfect for storing them. I also purchased 11 additional tube colors, and those were so that I had tubes to go with some of these colors that I know that I really love. And for some of them, if there wasn't a color available, I chose an alternative. So for example, they don't have the lemon yellow in the tube form, sadly, but they did have an azo yellow, so that will replace the lemon yellow as my cool yellow. This really surprised me because I just ordered these tubes on their own, and they actually put them in these custom boxes. And again, if you're somebody who just wants to maybe buy 6 colors of your own choosing, you can do what they call a custom order, and they'll put them in this box and they'll give you a nice little swatch card, and you can curate your very own palette that way. But it was nice that they actually took the colors that I ordered and put them in these custom boxes, because I do have nice little swatch cards, and I also have a nice place to store them. So I'll go through these in a minute, but these are my warmer colors that I selected. And then in this box, I have my cooler colors. And again, they gave me a swatch card. Had I known they were going to give me a box, I would have ordered one more because it feels a little bit lonely and empty here. But maybe I can do that at a later date when I find a color I really love. So I will explain my color choices for these loose tubes to you right now. Like I've said, these are the colors that I really love, and I want to curate my own palette and put them in tiny palettes. So they did not have a lemon yellow in a tube, sadly, so instead I bought the azo yellow, and that will replace the lemon as my cool yellow. And then the royal yellow, which you see here, is my warm yellow. They did have permanent carmine, which I'll use as my cooler red. And they did not have vermilion in a tube, so instead I got the scarlet red, which I think is beautiful. And then for another earthy, violety red, I got the Perylene Maroon, which I also have in pan form. And I really like their Burnt Umber Dark. It's a single pigment, Pigment Brown 7, and so I also got that in the tube form. And then for my blues, I was really surprised to find that they did not carry a normal ultramarine blue, but I did get their ultramarine blue dark, and I'm interested to compare those. If I'm looking at this swatch and comparing it to my swatch, it looks to be a bit brighter, so it's going to be interesting to swatch that out and do a color chart with it. And for my cool blue, I chose to get the transparent cerulean. And this was an oversight on my part. I didn't realize that I actually already owned that color. It's right here, and it came in the Classic 2 set. So I already had a pan of it, but this is going to basically be my cool blue, and it's the same pigment as phthalo blue. So I think it's going to work out quite nicely. I also really loved this color periwinkle. It's got a lavender tone to it, so I did get this in the tube. And then I got the dioxazine violet, which again, I already did have in the pan form. And I got this Naturno color, which just is such a beautiful purple that it's going to be a lot of fun to explore. They sent a little sampler card of the ultramarine pink, which is going to be a lot of fun to swatch out. And then I also purchased these loose pans. I purchased 6 of them, and these are basically to accompany some of these new watercolor tubes that I bought. So this one is the transparent cerulean, which I do already have, and again was an oversight, but this will be my cool blue, and I will definitely get some mileage out of that. Then I bought a pan for the ultramarine dark, and it's going to be really interesting to explore the color from the pan versus the tube. And I'm thinking that I'll make a longer video on that topic. So if you'd like to see me do that and compare the pans to the tubes, let me know, and I can make another video showing you that. I got a pan of the Naturno because, again, I really like the color and I did invest in the tube. So it's always nice to have one of their hand-poured pans, because then I can just add colors to top this one up, as well as use it in additional palettes. And this is the Indanthrone Blue. And I don't have this color, but I thought it was really such a pretty midnight deep blue that it would be interesting to explore and include, especially in winter scenes or nighttime scenes for a sky. Again, I love that it's a single pigment. It's PB60. Some other companies that make the same color use more than one pigment. So I'm going to have fun with that one. And this pen goes along with the Periwinkle, which is that specialty lavendery blue. And then finally, I got the Van Dyke Brown. I love Van Dyke Brown. It is a perfect cool brown, and it's a nice accompaniment and contrast to the Burnt Umber Dark. And if I like this, I can also purchase it in a tube. If it's available in a tube, I'm not sure if it is or not. So these are all of the colors that I'm so excited to explore over the coming months. I apologize that I didn't do any swatching here in this video, but there are so many pigments here and so many things that I plan to do with them that it would have been a 3-hour video. So I thought it was better just to maybe do them in different installments. And because they include these beautiful swatches already of the colors on the packaging, I didn't feel it was absolutely necessary to do that here for you today. But let me know which of these you'd like me to swatch out together first and maybe paint something with. And also let me know if you'd like to see me select some of these colors and make a limited palette with them. Like I said, I've got 2 art toolkit palettes that I've been saving for the perfect colors. And I also have a few palettes from GoDraw that I've been hoarding and waiting for the perfect paints. And these are them. I've always wanted to have a tiny palette of A.Gallo. I'm so excited to do some tiny paintings with these beautiful pigments. And so I want to somehow narrow it down to 8 colors for a tiny palette. But I'd also like to choose 3 colors from the Naturale line and maybe do just a 3-color palette with those. So let me know what you think and we can go on this exploration together. Thanks so much for your support. I hope that you all have a beautiful day and happy painting.